Welcome to the We Founders podcast. We are women entrepreneurs, founders, and investors sharing our stories about how we raise funds, invest, and build our businesses from the Western Balkans. I'm your host, Gaia Montelatici, General Partner at Studio X Ventures. Nađa, welcome to our We Founders podcast. It's a real pleasure to talk to you today. You are head of business development at Lemlist. You are 2 times a sales leader. You are recognized international influencer and public speaker. You're now in Belgrade, working for Lemlist. And I'm looking forward to hear all your lessons learned. And before we do that, especially from the perspective of how you have established your authority as a woman leader, I'd like for you to spend 1 minute contextualizing a little bit more your professional experience.
Thank you guys so much for the lovely introduction and lovely to be speaking to you today. So as you mentioned, I've been working in sales for 6 years now, 4 years in a sales leadership position, working basically in a San Francisco startup, now in a French startup. I've finished University of Belgrade, actually studied journalism in my initial years, and I've started actually marketing originally, so transitioned later on into sales. So it's been quite a journey. Obviously, anybody who is coming right now from Serbia, I can imagine that it's not that simple way to go from, typical university into the startup world. So excited to be talking today about my journey and the way that I came where I am today.
Perfect, Nađa. So let's start it off right away.
Sure.
Tell us what you've learned in terms of keeping your authenticity, keeping your feminine side, but still becoming professional and recognized.
That's a great question. And I would say that obviously once I've started my career, I do believe that young women, especially in sales, but I would say in any area of business, we're intimidated by the thoughts of how others perceive us. And we feel that there is this stigma around being a woman in business and the way that people will see you. Will they respect you? Will they take you seriously? So I believe that when you're still not in a stage where you have enough confidence based on your skills, we tend as women to take on a bit more aggressive approach and take on the role of men, especially if we enter the leadership positions, and we start acting like men, and we lose this authenticity and this what makes us women, like the feminine side of every woman that there is, especially when it comes to the empathy, about the kindness, and really understanding deeply the thoughts behind. I do believe that there is a difference between men and women in this sense, that we are a bit more sensible to other people's feelings. And this is actually a great leadership quality. So removing this from your side as a woman and actually taking on this aggressive, pushy approach really loses everything that you bring as a woman into the
Did you see this in your path?
I have. So my first leadership position was kind of offered to me when I was really not that ready for it. And I was also doubting in my skills at that point of leading the team and being a good sales leader in the first place. And on top of that, I was very young. So me being a woman and a young woman actually in leadership position, I was really feeling intimidated, and I thought that for me to prove myself and actually be heard and be listened to, that I need to be very aggressive and this very important woman who's going to enter and everybody's going to listen. And the only way for me to do that was, I was thinking at that time, was to be a bit more tied up and aggressive, as I said, instead of just being myself. And this is what I've learned later on in my years. Obviously, that wasn't taken that well. My colleagues at that point in my current company at that point obviously saw the change in myself and my personality and my behavior. And people can spot fakes. So as long as you're authentic to yourself and you're being vulnerable, it's always going to be much more appreciated than anything that you can fake or pretend to be.
So did your leadership skills also progressed together with your business results?
They have, for sure. So I would say that it's always easier to kind of have this confidence when it's backed by your skills and your experience and your knowledge. But I would say that for anybody who is like young and currently entering into the business, not having experience and not having skills is not the reason for you to be intimidated or not confident. Just be honest and transparent in what you bring to the table, and respect that your path is like, you still have a long way to go, and that's fine. It's just like the mindset and your skill and your grinder mindset, I would say, that will matter in these stages of life. And you shouldn't like put yourself down just because of the experience that you did or did not have.
Even in these international companies and contexts that you've been practicing your leaderships in, do you see that you had support from diversity of people, women, men, others?
Yes, it's been an interesting last 4 years, 5 years or something like that, simply because I do feel that right now, when it comes to hiring, a lot of recruiters, a lot of companies are looking for obviously like diverse cultures. So there is this bit of a pressure on recruiters as well to hire women.
Very true.
Simply to check the box on the diversity checklist. Which on one hand is great because we are now getting these chances that we didn't get in the past. However, on the other hand, I know that a lot of women, including myself at one point, we are asking ourselves, is the only reason that I'm getting hired simply because I'm a woman? Like, what about my skills? What about my experience? I don't want to work somewhere where I'm just being hired for being a woman. But from my kind of personal experience, taking the opportunity, no matter for what reason you've gotten that opportunity, is a great way for you to kind of set the path for the future women leaders and really come into the position, prove yourself by your work, your skills, and your grind. And eventually we will have hopefully a future where these things will not matter and where it will not be like a male or female leader. It's going to be like a leader. At the end of the day.
I know that you are approached by such young professionals nowadays,
yes,
right?
Actually,
women who ask you for help and support.
That's very true. So I'm getting a lot of requests from young women that are like being inspired, obviously, by me being like a sales woman leader. That are asking about how they can, being afraid that they're being offered a job simply because they're a woman, or not being able to get promoted within their company simply because they're a woman, and men are still obviously taking the advantage of and being promoted more than women in general. I've had a wonderful example of an Indian girl that reached out to me. She was working with 50 male colleagues in a company. She was the right hand to the CEO. However, she was the only one that was not present on board meetings, although she was the one that was actually bringing the most results and creating the strategies. And we had a wonderful discussion where we realized that basically she was doing what we've spoke about before, hiding, not speaking up, feeling that it's not her right to speak up and that she cannot deserve it. So after that, she started like speaking up. She started raising her voice, standing up for herself. And it's a funny thing when you change your perspective about yourself and you get your confidence in yourself, you set the tone of how people will approach you. So there is no reason that they will not be able to speak with you in other way, or they will not hire you in the first place, which at the end of the day, you don't want if that's the reason for you being hired in the first place.
Absolutely. Are there women also from Serbia who approach you and write to you about this?
Yes. However, I would say that in Serbia, it's not that, I wouldn't say that the gap is that big, luckily. However, a lot of Serbian women are approaching me simply how to enter a startup scene, how to enter SaaS sales, how to, for example, the very interesting question is, a lot of people are introverts. So they're asking themselves, am I actually good in being like, I'm a woman, I'm an introvert, I cannot speak up, I'm not being aggressive, will anybody listen to me, will anybody respect me? And I would say that these qualities are right now what people are looking for, actually, because this world needs more kindness rather than more aggressiveness, because we all see those people around us every single day.
Absolutely. So, if you were to say, well, what you know now and you didn't know at the time that you started your career and you wish you had known, what would that be?
I would say that everything will change and everything will kind of resolve by itself as long as you first figure out who you are and like working on your personal growth, accepting who you are, your own flaws, mistakes, values, your benefits or advantages that you have, and really owning that and being authentic instead of pretending to be something else. Because even if you get a job for pretending to be something that you're not, how long will it last, first of all, and will you be happy? And do you want to be in a position where you're not being accepted for who you are? There is a company out there that is going to recognize you if you present yourself as you are. And this is like my biggest learning, that just kind of be authentic, be honest, be vulnerable, and people really will respect that.
That's really fantastic, and it's very much counterintuitive from the perspective of more traditional businesses, right?
For
so
sure.
far. And this sort of also redefines for us what it means to be successful. And I think that the younger generations of professionals are all about redefining the whole path. So, at times though, this is confused a little bit with, well, we want the easier way. We want, to kick back a little bit. And, for us, successful doesn't mean that we necessarily have to be millionaires or whatever the case is, which means that maybe we don't have to work as hard. That's not necessarily the case, though. So you, as an international professional, coming back and working from Belgrade, where do you see actually this opportunity for, younger startups from Serbia making their way into the international markets and younger professionals like that?
So I would say that those are I would split them into two questions, which is how young professionals can make their mark internationally. I would say that the biggest learning for me, and this is something that I do believe that in Serbia we're all afraid of, and I was as well, is to actually work on your personal brand. Which I know sounds horrible to a lot of people listening, especially from Serbia, but being active on, for example, LinkedIn, or finding your own community, your own space, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever your professional network is, being present there is the only way for you to actually spread your voice outside of Serbia. The moment I've started working in startup scene, I've started posting actively on LinkedIn. My network grew from in 2 years, 25 times on LinkedIn. And that's the reason that I'm right now being invited to biggest sales events in US, etc. US leadership knows about me, a girl from Serbia, actually. So building the personal brand, I would say that is the biggest benefit that everybody can have today if you're coming from Serbia and you want to make a mark outside of Serbia. And the second, maybe even more important part is really networking. I do believe that in Serbia, we're not that used to the term of even the idea of networking, reaching out to somebody that you don't really know. But literally reaching out and asking them if they would be open to kind of exchange for 15 minutes, half an hour about specific topic that you want to discuss, whether it's startup, sales, marketing, whatever you want to pursue, and reaching out to the people that you admire, respect, and you want to have as mentors. This is something I didn't do in the beginning of my career. Today, I'm having at least one networking chat per day. This is how you expand your network outside. And unlike Serbia, people are really open to that. So you don't be afraid to actually do it. It's just about, getting the guts to actually reach out and to network with people, not only on LinkedIn or, just sending them emails, but also communities like Impact Hub, for example. The events that you're organizing is an amazing opportunity for you to actually expand your network and meet new people.
Very true. So you said a very interesting thing, that at the beginning of your career, actually, you were not so much reaching out to other professionals to discuss themes of common interest. Is that because you were more shy about your authority on the issue, or is it because you thought that maybe you needed sort of actually a bigger brand to be able to communicate with such experts?
I would say that, quite frankly, I would say that like the thought didn't cross my mind. Like I was talking to my friends, my colleagues, somebody that I know, but it never occurred to me, okay, why not reach out to somebody completely random that I know is going through the same things right now, working on the same things, and ask them for help. I do believe that like when you're really in the early stages of your career, you feel like a student in a classroom and you're afraid to kind of raise your hand and ask questions. But literally just being brave, I would say, is the brave, and not even being so scared about being rejected, because what happens if they say no? I mean, at the end of the day, nothing will change for you. So I would say that it was just like me not knowing about this entire spectrum of networking via LinkedIn, via like events. Obviously, I was going to events, but I was not really approaching people and talking to them, but I was waiting in the corners, waiting for an opportunity for me to kind of talk to somebody. And then later on, obviously, as I gained more confidence, as I grew as a professional, that has changed completely, obviously.
So if you were to give 3 advices for someone who's just starting out in its career, right? Whether that is in the startup world or a company, whatever the case is, what are the first 3 steps in terms of networking mindset and tactics as well?
I would say that first figure out what you want to learn. So let's say you identify that you want to learn about sales. Then spot the people who are actually very active or thought leaders or engaging a lot or doing any podcasts, webinars. Listen to those podcasts, listen to those webinars, find if this is something that you find valuable. And if it is, reach out to those people, mention what you've heard on the podcast webinar, what got your attention, and then ask them if they would be open to kind of spare 10 minutes because you're currently going through this and this and this. And ask them for their time and their opinion on this topic. I would also say that events are a great opportunity as well. Obviously, right now we're kind of going back to the in-person events finally. So any place where you can really speak with people that are in the same branch, I think is then the same niche is where you're going to be able to network.
Yeah, and also, as you were saying, use the authority of others who work with you, whether those are mentors or organizations and so on and so forth, so that you can sort of piggyback.
That's actually a great point. That's what I forgot to mention, and I didn't do it as well in the beginning, is if you have a manager or a mentor that is, well, probably better connected than you are, don't be afraid to ask for an intro to somebody else. If they're a good manager, they will definitely do it. If they're not, think about your manager. But at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to ask. So just use people from your surroundings that can make those intros and actually get you to the people that you can get some value from.
Yeah. So while we're talking about talents and internationally, but also from Serbia, right? I actually know that you're hiring, right? In Serbia. What is your experience and what are you looking for in terms of skills, mindset, competencies?
Exactly. So right now we're, as you mentioned, we're hiring for my sales team at Lemlist, and I was given the opportunity to hire anywhere in the world. I've decided, because obviously I come from Serbia, I want to kind of bring back some value to my home country. I obviously know that we are very smart people, very great communicators. Our English skills are quite awesome. So these are all the skills that obviously like in sales are needed. And I was realizing, okay, I just want to hire people here with great startup mindset. So like grinders, people who are not willing to roll up their sleeves, stay longer hours as well, that are willing to learn, that spend these years of their like young years to actually build the career that they want. And then I will coach them. However, what I realize is that there is not sure where this comes from, but I do believe that there is a cultural gap between Serbia and potentially other more advanced international markets with startup scenes, where we're kind of used to 9 to 5 jobs, and we're looking at our friends, our family especially, And our dads and moms are telling us, no, get a steady job, 9 to 5, you need to work, like be on like under the government facility or something like that. So I do believe that there is this mindset gap that is lacking in Serbia right now, where people want to work, but when it becomes hard and there is really like a pressure that, especially with sales, often comes, that's where we tend to lack.
Right. So you're looking at younger talents
Exactly.
in terms of experience, right? That can actually be more gritty and more devoting of time to learning. Exactly. Which is a fantastic opportunity for young people to work with you and actually learn and, frog leap a little bit, because if they were to learn it on their own pace, it would take them a lot longer. And the education system here is not preparing them for that either. So I would say that everybody should jump on that opportunity.
Well, I appreciate it. And definitely if anybody's listening actually to this, that means that you're already kind of in this nice mindset. So feel free to really reach out to me. As I said, like I'm hiring, I'm creating a team here in Serbia. So happy to talk to anybody who is interested.
Thank you, Nađa, for this. So one last theme that I wanted to address with you, and it's again about the startup scene here, right? So we talked about the talents, we talked about the mindset gaps that we are experiencing and we're all addressing in this ecosystem. By reflection, what happens in terms of startups? Where do you see those opportunities? And do you see that, by accelerating some of the mindset traits, we can take those chances more seriously?
I can definitely say that right now in Serbia, there are immense amount of opportunities, especially in startups. There are so many startups that are hiring, a lot of US startups that are opening offices here. They're always looking for hungry talent. I've been working 2 startups in Serbia, and I know that every time we had problems finding people, not because we were literally putting down our criteria simply to hire somebody. However, I do feel that people are just not aware enough about the opportunity the startup brings, potentially skeptical about it, but also maybe intimidated in thinking that their experience is not enough. What I will tell you is that even if you don't have experience, but you have this grinder mindset, you're willing to work hard, you have a good English, just go to startups that are opening offices here, talk to them, somebody will hire you 100% in some position. Take the position, and then in startups you can really rise within the hierarchy very fast and upskill and learn everything that you need to know for the future of your career.
So you would say that also a fast personal and professional growth is actually the upside of working in a startup, right?
I do believe that like my last 2 years at my current company, I've learned more than I have for the last 4 years before that in my career. Startups are insanely intense, fast, especially if they're fast growing. There's a lot of work to be done, but the speed of growth, the speed of learning, in general, the knowledge of the global holistic way that businesses work and companies grow will not only equip you for the current job that you're in and that you want to do, but you will be able to one day open your business, work in different fields. It's just so many opportunities that you can have. And nowhere else you can grow so fast within the hierarchy as well, and like really get promotions faster than in startups.
And one last reflection from you, because I think that it's hard and maybe intimidating at the beginning, to sort of do that leap of faith without knowing what's on the other side. And by having professionals like you in Serbia and in the context of the Western Balkans nowadays is precious, because you've seen the world, from an international perspective, and that's a lot more than someone has seen in a lifetime. So you're bringing it all back here. Just the couple of things, all of the things that, someone can see and doesn't know will be seeing from
Exactly.
working in such startups is very empowering, right?
For sure. I would say that obviously the disadvantage of Serbia currently is that, for example, if you're entering sales specifically, education doesn't exist really. So neither in universities or there are not a lot of courses that are actually good on sales. So what I've done and the way that I've learned is by actually going and watching webinars, podcasts, training courses from US leaders. However, right now the situation is changing, and I do believe that leaders like myself are willing to go back to Serbia and actually help out the scene here can make a difference if people are willing to listen, obviously, because I know for myself, and I know a lot of people out there that are willing to kind of share the knowledge, share our experiences selflessly, really. However, we just need an audience and people who are just willing to listen and, accept this knowledge and work hard enough really to implement it.
So I'm looking forward actually to seeing all of those webinars in place.
Likewise. One day.
Nađa, thank you so much for being our guest. Everybody who's listening, please, if you're interested, if you have that growth mindset, let us know. Let Nađa know. And we'll get to that opportunity as fast as we can. We'll continue the conversation about the startup scene, and we're really looking forward to access all your learning. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really lovely talking to you. And for everybody listening, obviously, if you want to get in contact with me, my LinkedIn is the best place to find me. I will answer to everybody reaching out. So let's connect, and if there's any way that I can help you out, happy to help.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you for watching We Founders podcast. My name is Komnenić, and I will be co-host this season. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.